But hold up, I got something to say.
This is episode 5, part 2.
Listen, watch,
Let's
subscribe.
get to it.
I got something to say. I got something to say.
I got something to say.
Say, I got something to say. Go ahead. I got something to say. One more time. To say.
We're back. Hold on. I got something. No, I'm in front of my camera. Yeah. Hold on. Let me in my camera. Hey, we're back. This is episode 5. This is Moe, SAF Moe. This is Ron B in the middle. We are the voice of the voiceless. We are
The voice of the voiceless.
We keep this going. Shouts out.
And all of a sudden, and when they start reading the verdicts, I'm expecting to say not guilty. But there was no nots. It was just guilty. Oh. Guilty. Oh. Guilty. Oh. I was shook. How the hell did this happen? Those guilty verdicts. At that time, I started realizing, wait a second. If they would have just simply put some knots with that, I would have been free. But since they didn't put knots with it, they took my life. How did they do this? As a Muslim, I have I pray, I make my salats, I pray. And then at that particular time, when they brought me back to the county jail, and it was kind of like the hardest time I've ever prayed, because it was like prior to that I prayed to God that I beat the case, that He cover all my sins, which I would say God did that because He covered it. I'm sitting there thinking I'm going home. So then all of a sudden it was like in that particular situation, I went to God and I said, I had to ask, why did you do this? How did I'm asking what happened? And it was something clicked in my head that said you better read. And at that point in time I started reading. Do you get what I'm saying? At that particular time, I had to start. I'm starting reading. How did you guys do this?
That's exactly how I felt.
How did you do this? So guess what I'm doing? I'm reading this whole Constitution because all the judges and everybody are bound by the Constitution. They're all bound by this Constitution. You hear about it, all the governmental officials, and they break it down over and over again. They talk about the Constitution. Then I'm sitting there reading. They talk about their privileges and immunities and stuff. I'm like, wait a second. This way put in a motion. That's when I went to the attorney. I'm like, well, put in a motion for these privileges and immunities. I'm ignorant. I don't know how to do it, but you're my attorney. You put in this, and that's when it clicked in. Wait a second. There's something wrong with this picture here. That's when I had to learn there's something wrong with this picture because guess what? She's not doing it. And then the reality kicked in that guess what these guys are. These guys are slave traders.
So
they're slave traders.
So what do you say about individuals such as myself that have come to terms with, like, I actually did do a crime. I still, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I did. Like, it took me a couple years into my 10-year sentence to say to myself, like, you know what, you did this, Ron. Quit fighting, just accept it and keep it moving. What do you say about individuals that do that? I would say no.
That doesn't happen.
I did that.
What you need don't make me pissed. I'm the government. Your offense that you committed doesn't affect me. But if you allow me to If you allow me to punish you for something you did, I'll accept it.
And my deal is, I always go back to the philosophical understanding of what is a crime. And I go to behavioralism, what is guilt. So if you fought, like, the thing about it, is when you look at a correctional facility and look how it utilizes terms, programming, corrections. They don't hide the fact that this is what they're institutionalized. They're trying to create something. What are they creating? Factories. When back in slavery, they called the places where they converted, where they stored the slaves prior to going to America, factories. So they don't hide anything what they're doing, trying to transfer it. You might have had some issues. What we're talking about right now is that them utilizing the Constitution to convert us back into slaves in order for them to benefit from us. And when I was talking to this brother, I was like, okay, well, what I'm seeing, if you use fast food restaurants as some type of theoretical position, the difference between them and me down the state is that when I'm going to the fast food restaurant selling myself to corporate America, I'm benefiting. When they take me, they're benefiting. I'm thinking fast food restaurant, I get the check at the end of the day. At the state, I don't get anything. Tell me.
This nigga's about to go to sentencing. This nigga's about to go to sentencing. And I'm a judge. What do I see right here? This is a thing called a what? A plea agreement. This is the application to the court for me to impose a sentence or to employ him. Now I'm
I don't have to accept this plea agreement.
But what I said, I'm gonna accept this plea. I'm gonna make him my employee because the judge is a master. He's an employer. He looks at this plea agreement or this application that you signed.
You can't stop laughing.
He signed this application. He said he wants to be a slave. But to make it all legal, we have to say in open court, could you be
Put it on the record. 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 Put it on the record.
Do you understand that you're giving up your rights?
Yes, I do.
Now, do you agree to be, you're going, now, were you forced to threaten into this plea agreement?
No, I wasn't.
All right, I'll accept your plea. You're hired.
This right. I see, but they ask you to stay on under oath. Have you just talked to the state and you talked to the defender? The defender, you negotiated this plea bargain.
Yes.
But you tell the court on record a lie.
Yes.
And he knows you're lying. But he can't stop laughing.
But what did your attorney say in private? In whispering, he's telling you, shut the fuck up while I'm having this under your breath.
Yeah.
Don't say nothing.
Yeah.
Remember what we talked about?
Yeah.
Just say yes.
He's going to ask you some questions. Just say yes to all the questions.
This guy's going to stand up on the podium and the prosecutor said, get in there 20 years. Now the guy that's supposed to be representing your best interest, he tell you
to shut up.
And he says he doesn't deserve 20 years. He deserves 10. Any man that's now you're a grown ass man, right?
Yeah.
How many years you want to do? He told you to fuck right now with this.
Yeah. Negotiating your ass. Selling you. It's a slave auction.
I have a guy who I'm working with. He caught a case, and I'm trying to explain to him something about how this works. If you allow them to give you any time, you're not understanding how our legal system works. It goes back to this. If a guy were to talk about raping me, he said, "Yeah, I'm about to give you this much."
Okay. Well, don't give me that much.
Okay.
That's true.
Will you take this much?
That's true. That's exactly how it is.
Will you take this much?
That's how it is. It's a negotiation. You're on an auction block again.
Will you take this much?
But Ron.
Will you take a couple, just a humps on the back?
fine.
It goes from this to just some humps on the back. At what point is a man gonna accept any of this?
Not
Not a real man.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So when this is what your public defender is saying to you. They can't give you 20 years. Will you take this much?
That's true. That's exactly how it is.
Will you take this
That's
much?
how it is. It's a negotiation. You're on an auction block
Will you
again.
take this much?
But Ron.
Will you take a couple, just the humps on the back? At what point
Let's make it plain that it's fine.
It goes from this to just some humps on the back. At what point is a man gonna accept any of this?
Not a real man.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So when this is what your public defender is saying to you. They can't give you 20 years.
They're willing to give you 10. Take it.
I'll take some probation.
Yeah. But I'm saying the whole time.
I'm not taking. I'm a man. And see, this is the truth is, men, regardless of how if that judge likes you or not, the truth is, men of understanding understand men, and a real man is not going to accept any of that bullshit because guess what he understands? He understands what the law is saying. He understands who's in control in that courtroom, and you have your paper. If you take any of this, at the end of the day, what are they going to do? When they strip you into that prison, guess what they're going to say? Yeah, man, why don't you bend over, spread your cheeks, open your butt cheeks, cough.
Disrespect.
What is it, dehumanizing you?
Beyond that.
Do you understand?
Beyond that.
It's like, this is some sick stuff going on.
That means but the thing about it is that you have no recourse. You cannot say you're not going to do that. Period. It's your property.
But now you have to look at the stages. Okay, we'll look at some money for example. This is a duffel bag full of cash, $100,000, right? It's $100,000. Guess what? I found it, and I'm gonna do all the legal steps necessary for me to claim this $100,000. But it's not mine. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna turn it into the police station. $100,000 in a duffel bag because I'm doing what is legally right. So guess what the police are gonna do? We're gonna put out a public notice that lasts for 180 days. It's normally 90, but for this reason, we're going to say 180 days. So they're going to put out public notice for 180 days, so they're saying, there was some money found, somebody better come in and do what? Claim it. Mm-hmm. Guess what I'm praying? Nobody claims it. Right. For 180 days, that money been sitting there. They put public notice out here. This whole time they put public notice out here saying there's money out here. Somebody better do what? Come in and claim it. And if no one claims it, after 180 days, they're probably going to take out some taxes out of that shit. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to give it to me. Now it's 100% legitimate. Because they did everything that was legally necessary for someone to secure a claim.
Correct.
So now while your ass is sitting in the county jail for how many, they don't just put you in prison immediately.
Sit in county jail.
They sit you in county jail they sit you in there for 6 months to a year, sometimes longer than that.
Some people sit in county jail 5 years.
So they have you sitting in there this whole time for who's the owner of this particular property to come claim it. The whole time for you to come claim this piece of property, that nigga that you own. Yes. When a person comes claim that money, guess what they got to do? They got to show proof of some type of ownership of it. Where the money came from and all this other stuff. Right. So once you claim it, then guess what they have to do? They're like, okay, well, the money's released to you. It's yours. You came up with enough evidence, legal evidence, to produce evidence of ownership of that particular property. Now that you claimed it, now it can be released. Do you understand? This is understand. What's it? Okay, now here's the trick question. Which is worth more, $10,000 or a $10,000 nigga?
Say that again?
Which is worth more, $10,000 or a $10,000 nigga?
Right, $10,000
No, see, you guys are niggas. Y'all ain't paying no attention. They're both worth what? $10,000.
Yeah, you're right, I can't.
I would think a $10,000 nigga would be worth more because a $10,000
they're worth $10,000. That $10,000 nigga also eats food. So guess what that does? That takes away from the value. So now I gotta take my time and effort in feeding this nigga.
So what's the purpose of making this analogy? Because if you're saying in lieu, if I can redeem this individual and not have him go to the state, is that the issue, or just if it's in comparison, just about?
What happens is, understanding the concept, when I was talking about that, is when we were talking about the money.
Yeah.
You better come in and do what?
Claim it.
Because it was $100,000.
But, yeah. And if it's an individual.
Okay, now, and we're gonna go back to the science. You just said if you had $100,000 here, you would definitely come in and claim that $100,000.
Exactly.
But here you got a $100,000 nigga here, but guess what you do? You leave that nigga in the county jail, and you're not claiming him. Obviously, you guys don't think that this nigga's worth $100,000 because you just left that nigga in jail.
So he's been out there smoking crack, doing whatever,
that same nigga.
He's saying, but his whole analogy of the criminal justice system is that artificial individual being placed inside the jail. And that person who can claim him is always given us. We have security to that individual. We never.
You can get a birth certificate, which is the title to the nigga, and you can present it to them and say, hey, look, I have title to this. You can go give it to the sheriff and say, look, sheriff, that nigga that's on that indictment, I have title to the state. I'm the holder. Can I go get your birth certificate? No. You can get your birth certificate because the birth certificate title belongs to you. So you can present this to the sheriff. It's like, no, that nigga, that particular nigga that's there, that you guys are holding me on that indictment, you guys gave me a claim check. That indictment is what? It's a claim check. It's telling you, it's the public notice, hey, look, we got this nigga in here, we got this $10,000 or this $100,000 in here. Now guess what you have to prove? You're doing it. Well, guess what you produce? You produce a birth certificate. Hey, I have the title to this. You give it to the sheriff. And guess what I'm gonna apply? I'm gonna apply this exemption. You don't have to hold this nigga in jail. I'm gonna exempt you from what? Your tax liability. From collecting taxes off this obligation that you guys created.
Correct.
I'm going to remember your daughter. I'm going to exempt you, exempt me and her.
Yeah.
So you put this on the indictment. You sit up here and put this property is what? It's exempt. It has the privileges and immunities clause of Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution. Where on one hand they said the indictment says tax a nigga. It's a claim check. So when the judge, who's a title examiner, he looks at that title and he says, well, the Constitution gives Congress the authority to do what? To tax niggas, right? So then guess what you have the authority to do? To exempt the tax liability. So now the whole time you have the ability to exempt the tax liability because remember what privilege is. It's the exemption. You remember? It's the exemption. So what you put on that same indictment, guess what you do? You register the same indictment, say, I'm the owner of this nigga here, and guess what? When the judge looks at the title, and guess what it's saying? You registered ownership of this particular piece of property here, and you said it's what? It's exempt. So now the title examiner, the judge, now guess what he can do? He can utilize what the law is saying, because the Constitution gave Congress the authority to levy and collect taxes, and it also gave you the authority to exempt the tax liability.
Yeah. But that. I always wonder why it was so much, like, I don't know if I know the federal rules of court and that sort of rules of court.
These rules are, I
I
see into the law, because I can actually show you the law.
I just, when I was actually trying to submit motions, petitions.
Yeah, you was on some bullshit.
I'm being honest. I'm just saying, I'm trying to submit motions and petitions. I'm trying to figure out why there's so much civil law and very little criminal law.
Because criminal law is the processing of making what? Slaves. Nigga, the slave was already made. This is why I was talking about your belt.
Hey, y'all can keep recording, y'all can say, I gotta go somewhere real quick. I got something very important I have to do. Y'all can stay, as long as y'all want. You run the water, go yelling, yeah, we're gonna finish something. Yeah, y'all finish something good over there.
Remember your belt, right? This is why I asked you about the cow. Do you give a damn
No, I don't care what you do.
how the cow came in? What happened to the cow? As long as you get what?
My belt,
Which is your
property.
criminal law. The only part about criminal law is the creation of what?
The slave.
Slave. But now that there's a slave here, guess what happened? Now it's civil law. I have the title to that slave. They gave me. Did they sign that indictment?
Yeah.
But guess what you failed to do? Register ownership. You remember we talked about the car? If you don't register the title to the car, it's still in my name.
Right.
So when the state signed the title over you, then they said, look at this, the game. Never gonna register this shit. So whose name is in the game?
It's in the state's name, sure.
So guess who gets to control the nigga?
State.
Because you failed to do your job on registering and telling the court, who's the title examiner, look at the record. Look at the record and see who the owner is. Here you go, arguing, man, my fingerprints wasn't on the gun.
Well, that, but you can't say it in that way because
No, that's what
every aspect, every media makes an individual who has no concept of law thinks that that's what you need to prove. Prior to us going to prison, that's why we know it's not the truth. There's no element. They don't even care about that narrative. The narrative is fiction.
No. Guess what? Even when they talk about the 13th Amendment, did they talk about people in here? They said parties.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about human beings. They talked about
Slaves
parties.
and parties.
They didn't talk about human beings.
No.
You remember? Put it like this. Let's say that you own a corporation called McDonald's.
Yes.
There's a McDonald's truck. Let's say that you own McDonald's.
Right.
And you put your truck in McDonald's name. It's a Bentley. Who gets the benefit of this truck?
I do, but McDonald's owns it.
So now when I go sue McDonald's for its Bentley, who better come in and protect McDonald's?
I gotta come in and protect McDonald's.
Because McDonald's can't do it itself.
Right.
But who's going to feel the effect if I take that Bentley?
I will.
So guess what you have to do? You have to come in and say, the property of McDonald's?
That's my property.
That's my property. Then you show legal title to it? Then guess what?
Give me my contact.
Yes. This is how our legal system
But
works.
I was just saying it on the stand subject, like you have this, and I understand it now.
But you're a part of me. You're still, though that you're not McDonald's, because McDonald's is a corporation. But when you put on that uniform, and when you put on that uniform, and you smack the shit out of me while you're working for McDonald's.
That's McDonald's. Come to see McDonald's.
I'm suing McDonald's. I'm attacking all your property.
Yeah, everything.
So who's going to feel the effect of when I sue McDonald's? Who's going to feel the effect?
I am going to feel the effects, but you sue McDonald's, still don't. I'm the owner. I'm part of it.
Do you see how when they do the see this is the reason why they get away with this stuff, because it only makes logical sense.
But all I was saying is that, like, you take the individual rather than part of the criminal justice system. They believe that somehow forensics are being used and all this other stuff, and you have all this. They promote this garbage in order to have people believe these lies, but I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying that you and I can have a conversation, but 9 times out of 10, the individual sitting next to us would think we're crazy. And they need that to happen.
Okay. When I was a child, guess what happened? There was a guy who wore a red and white suit around Christmas time. You know who he used to come through? He used to come through the chimney.
Yeah.
And come down there to bring toys.
Yeah.
And guess what? As a child, guess what I believed?
I believe that.
As I got older and I got into superheroes, there was a guy who had a cape, and wear red and white.
Yeah.
And he flew through the air.
I believe that.
And guess what he did? He flew through the air.
The superhero.
And he was Superman.
Yeah, Superman. Right.
Santa Claus is Superman. Now, did Superman fly?
No.
Yes, he did fly, because that's what I imagined. You can't stop me from thinking that Superman was. You couldn't stop me. I'm a human being. I have free thought. If I want to say Superman was flying, and guess what? I got 10 other kids and a couple adults that believe what?
Superman flew.
And how are you going to tell me he didn't fly when my perception of him flying was the truth? So how stupid would you be trying to convince these kids that Superman wasn't flying?
Right.
For my entertainment and my enjoyment.
Right.
So at a certain point, guess what you have to let these fuckers do? This is the science. Let them think whatever they want to think.
They're gonna get hit by reality. Wake the fuck up.
Why I'm sitting here thinking about Superman flying and stuff like that. You can't stop somebody from thinking the way they want to think.
Right. Yeah.
You could program a person to think a certain way. You got some change on you?
No.
Okay, I can show you some magic. I'll have you really believing that some stuff really happened.
Right. I just wanted to point that out because I fall prey to that the fact that I believe and if you ask me what clicked in my head to make me go to the law library, not buy a TV and buy a typewriter and put together these petitions for my release, which was a waste of time.
Because what are attorneys? They're barristers.
Explain that. The barristers.
Barristers, that's it. I think it's an English term indicating they argue. They argue. They're great arguers. They're women. I don't know if you have a woman, but guess what? You're not going to win an argument with that woman. Because guess what they do? They just argue. No matter how delusional they could be, they're going to argue. With all due respect, ladies, I'm just saying that you guys are going to win the argument, hands down. Why? Because this is the business that they're in. Look up what a barrister is, and in Black's Law Dictionary, they're going to tell you the people that argue. And they're skilled at arguing. The judge, guess what he is? He's a master arguer. What is a court? Is a court where they settle disputes.
Yes.
So guess what these attorneys do?
Argue.
Now here, watch this. Hold this candle. Your Honor, this nigga had a candle. Punishable for 50 years in prison. So now, what does the attorney tell you? When you realize that you're subject to face 50 years in prison, you're terrified of this, what's the first thing the attorney tells you to plead? The first thing he tells you.
Not guilty.
Oh. He tells you to plead what?
Not guilty.
Even though we don't get it wrong.
You have the candle.
So guess what that creates? A controversy. It creates a dispute.
Start that over. So you give me the candle.
I'm not, it's not me giving you the candle. The fact is you got the candle.
I have the candle in my hand.
The charging instrument says nigga had candle.
And I have the candle. And the first thing an attorney tells me
is to plead what?
Not guilty.
Plead not.
In order.
I'll come downstairs and talk to you.
And then that in itself.
Now that gives the court's jurisdiction over what?
Over the body.
Over the controversy.
Over the controversy. Correct.
Put it like this. Well, okay, come here. I assaulted you. You get what I'm saying? I'm a judge. I understand. I'm a judge. I can judge by my actions that I assaulted you. By you feeling the effect of it, you're a judge, so you judge that I assaulted you. How much do I owe you for that?
Nothing.
Okay, I agree to that. 2 judges, we settled out of court. Because you didn't charge me no fees for it.
But if I did say it was a fee, you could say no.
I assaulted you again. I was like, shit, I could assault this nigga left and right. I could assault this nigga left and right.
Right.
So guess what I'm gonna do? So now in this particular situation, I was like, how much do I owe you? Because I'm cognitive of the fact that I assaulted you.
$10,000.
oh, I just assaulted this nigga earlier, I didn't have to pay nothing. So now I'm like, no.
That was for the court.
So now you're a judge because you made the judgment call that I owed you what? $10,000. I'm a judge that said, guess what? I'm not going to pay you $10,000 for the assault. So the first thing you do is you're gonna go get a witness. 911. You call the police. They see that your hand is red. You got the camera rolling. The camera rolling shows that that's what I did. Assaulted me. So now we go. Now you heard of the term tribunal?
Yeah.
You know what tribe means, right? 3. So now, are you a judge?
Yes.
You judge the fact that there was an injury cause. I'm a judge, and I'm saying that there was no thing here. Now we have a judge, a third judge, which is a referee between the 2 judges. Now we have a tribunal to come in here to make a determination because these 2 judges couldn't come
To understand.
So now, guess what happens?
Go to court.
See, no. So now the judge is going to make it. He's going to enter a judgment and say, guess what I owe you? $10,000. That's what his judgment is going to be because guess what? I'm denying the allegations in the affidavit saying I didn't assault you, but all the evidence is saying that I did. But now, what would be the smart move for me to do? We could alleviate the court out of this situation. I'm like, look, man, check this out. I know that I assaulted you, but I'm poor. I don't have any money right now. I thought you was going to let me assault you again because can I give you $2,000 and I don't even have that right now. But can I give you $2,000 and I make payments to you?
That'll work.
Okay, to ensure that I pay you the $2,000, instead of getting a judgment from the court ordering that I pay you, we draw up a contract. And yes, and then guess what? And we put a lien on it.
Yes.
You heard of the UCC,
Yeah.
a UCC 1, because we have an agreement. We don't need a tribunal, a person to settle a dispute, because guess what? We settled it. We settled it out of court because we have an agreement. And since I can't pay you all at once, we agreed to the terms. And we're going to use my car as collateral for the fulfillment of this obligation. And if I fail to fulfill my obligation, guess what you could come and get? The car. We didn't have to go to court over that.
No.
We had to sign an affidavit saying that I owe you. Did we have to say why I owed you? No. See, you see how we settled out of court? We didn't have to have this judge come in here and make this determination. But the whole time, the judge, guess what he's saying? Y'all better try to figure out, when we're talking about this bargaining thing, y'all better figure out a way to settle this. Or else I'm gonna grant the party who has a claim, I'm gonna grant him what he's entitled to. That's what the judge does.
Makes sense.
It really makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But guess what? What did I say? I often say that we work hand on the hip type people. When shit gets a little funny and we get frustrated, guess what we do? We get to arguing. No, I didn't do it. No, but when you understand what the legal system works, every court situation, somebody's trying to sue somebody for something. It's a lawsuit.
It's a dispute. It's not against the court. That's it. You have to have a dispute in order for it to get to court.
What did the Bible say? Agree with thy adversary quickly. When I assaulted you, first thing, if you would have said, give me $2, guess what I would have did?
Yeah.
I would have gave you $2.
I
would have said it again. I would have smacked it again. I would have made it a game show or something. Gosh, everybody. And each time you give me $2, you're getting paid for these smacks. We have an agreement. Do you see the logic behind that? But now all of a sudden, the attorneys are the worst thing that a person can have in a case. Because guess what he does? He puts an attorney lien on the judgment. People, when you're a child, I know when I was a child, that's what I was taught. The 2 things that someone should want to grow up to be. The 2 things that attorney. Or
I would say a pilot.
A doctor.
A doctor.
A doctor or an attorney. And why doctors get paid what?
Great money.
Attorneys get paid what?
Good money.
So now all of a sudden, when you go into this court case, guess what you do? You're not paying the attorney directly,
No.
but you don't ever ask how he's getting paid. With all of those years that you put in here, the interest off that obligation, he's entitled to the funds off that. When you go to trial, guess what? They give you more time, because guess what? Now the attorney had to work.
Yeah.
He had to put more motions in. This motion that he's charged, to type up this motion, guess what he's charging? He's charging $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And if he has to argue and come up with his dumbass argument, guess what he's doing? He's charging for that. His mileage going in when I went to trial, they told me my trial cost $6 million.
$6 million.
For a week of trial. So when they gave me all that time, guess what? It was covered.
$6 million.
They covered that money there.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting here thinking in my nigga mind some guilt stuff. No, it's the paying for that dispute that was in that courtroom.
That's the problem, because that's the con to make you feel guilty about some bullshit and fall into that.
See, but you remember Superman flying. I can't force you. I'm telling you, Superman really didn't fly.
And I understand, but to me, it has more than just, now I can look at it logically.
Put it like this. When I was in prison, I taught classes on law and business, because all of this stuff works. It works.
Yeah.
It works. Law is business.
Yeah.
It's understanding the contract.
Yeah.
It's only business.
Yeah.
When you go into a courtroom, the first thing is the court clerk might say, the first order of business, because all it is business. Mm-hmm. So now, and I'm teaching guys, hey, this is the business that they're doing. So here's the nigga who's giving up all hope on understanding, because his educational level is not there. He has love and hip hop in his soul. You get what I'm saying? He can lift all the weights he can, and he got the shank, and he knows how to live in here. Mm-hmm. So guess what he's gonna say? There's two things he's gonna say about Tommie. One person is gonna say, Tommie's smart as a motherfucker. And then another one's gonna say, that nigga's crazy. Mm-hmm. So now here I come, I'm like, hey man, you could get some recourse, and you could get some recourse in this matter. And guess what? He's already given up all hope. Mm-hmm. He's given up all hope. So the knowledge that I'm trying to share, I'll give it away for free. But guess what? In his mind, he has a mental block. Because he feels so inferior. We have real life complexes that we have real life complexes that the system knows in play to make sure that we stay in a certain position. Mm-hmm. It's true. I was looking at a TikTok thing where this guy was showing his dog. He was a dog trainer, and he said, this is how you feed your dog. You don't feed your dog. If you feed your dog like this, guess what the dog is going to keep on doing? He's going to keep on running in front of you to get the food, right? So then he said, this is how you train your dog to stay in a certain area. So he put the food on the side that the dog is on, so that the dog would not run in front of him to run in front of his way, so he stays on the side. So he trained the dog by keeping the food on one side. Mm-hmm. That's the psychological training of, well, I wouldn't say psychological, but that's how you train the dog to think. Right. Well, these guys mastered how to train human beings.
Domestication, things like that.
Our people don't function like our group of people don't function like the middle class white people. Why? Because their programming is different. Do you listen to heavy metal? No. You don't have no urge to listen to that. No. But to them, for some reason, that's music to their ears. Correct. Their programming is different than ours. Our hip hop, what do they tell us? It tells us that, how to have a hot girl summer, and put in work, kill, do what, and our programming is different. But nonetheless, it's what? It's still programming. Correct. Right. It's all a part of the program. Until one person starts realizing, you know what? This is not the best program.
Yeah, but it's being pushed by popular society.
Of course.
because they need that.
But at the same time, it's all about population control.
Correct.
It's about population control. This is why they have this narrative about this pumping this homosexual stuff now. All of a sudden, back in the day when I was younger, there was no way in the world a guy would have said it's acceptable for two gay men to sit up here and be around us and stuff of this nature. That's completely out of the question. But nowadays it's like, shit, as long as they don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Well, you went from there's no way in the world they would be around me.
Yeah.
I'm
from a whole other generation, so.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now it gets to the point, as long as they don't do it around me,
I'm okay with it.
then it gets to, I'm okay with it. Shoot, everyone has their own rights.
Right, I mean,
You progressive, through the program, they progressively training people to accept something that is diabolically wrong.
That's the society, that's the popular society narrative, and they attach it to a lot of different.
Not, for me to even say that it's diabolically wrong, if somebody, I'm being honest, somebody might, the cancel culture will sit up here and make it appear like,
You see it, that you're out of pocket for saying what you say, and it's just, but that whole, a lot of this social media has built that conversation to they have allowed that to happen, right? They allowed individuals to cancel individuals if they spoke their minds and told exactly what it was, and that they flourish. That whole behavior has been allowed to flourish based on that. So they cancel individuals who are against it, and individuals who are for it, they promote. Again, behavioralism and being taught.
So now, but at the same time, we are all able to have free minds.
You're not. You do, but you don't.
See, that's the whole
contradiction.
See, that's the whole thing. And it goes to the saying, if you don't stand for something,
you're gonna fall for everything.
You see what I'm saying? So it gets to the point.
But you can't in this culture stand for anything unless it's populist. They tell you what to stand for, right?
At the same time, but you have free will what I'm going to say, that God has given you to have free will.
Exactly.
And based in our legal system and laws, they actually recognize that free will. They actually understand that concept of free will. Mm-hmm. But you have to be willing to stand for it.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying? You have this.
I went into the joint. The first few years, I fought it myself for not taking the deal. I said I'd be on it. But it wasn't until I started getting those appeals denied back and understood that the whole time I had hope of getting out. It wasn't until I law school hope and I started to open my mind, understand truly how the system works.
This is the reason why, that's what I'm saying. You remember when you got released from jail or prison or whatnot?
Yeah.
Did you have to go to a judge to get released?
No.
You didn't have to go to a judge. Who released you? Was it state or federal?
State.
The sheriff released you.
Look, I left to go get corrections released me.
When the judge sentenced you, he remanded you to the custody of the sheriff.
Well, Commissioner of Corrections.
Right, but guess who he gave you to? The sheriff.
I went to the sheriff. Yeah, I was in there.
The sheriff is in control of the obligation, and he
transported me.
He transported you because guess what? The whole time, if you escaped,
he's a slave owner. He was gonna come again.
Because that's what his job is.
Fugitive. One of the first laws they had prior to abolish slavery was a fugitive law.
Remember, this is the definition of slavery, right?
This is the definition of slavery, the Black's Law, 10th edition.
Yep, Black's Law, 10th edition, and you're saying, what is this called? Although
the substance of slavery has varied from place to place and over time, systems of slavery include most or all the following conditions: Slaves are property.
Yes.
And can be sold, traded, given away, bequeathed, inherited, or exchanged for other things of value.
Remember this stuff. This is because slaves are property.
Right.
We're not going to call them slaves no more because guess what they said in the beginning? Well, no one wants to hear the word slave, so we're not going to put that in the Constitution. We're going to call them what?
We're going to call them
criminals.
Absolutely, yeah. The status of a
criminal. Instead of saying slave, just substitute slave for criminal.
The status of a criminal is inheritably, usually through the mother.
Think about it. Who's going to tell you to go do that time?
Mom.
Yep.
Formal legal structures or informal agreements regulate the capture and return of fugitives. Criminals have limited or no legal rights or protections. Criminals may be punished by criminal owners or their agents with minimum or no legal limitations. Masters may treat or mistreat criminals as they wish, although some societies require the masters treat criminals humanly, and some societies ban murder and extreme or barbaric forms of punishment and torture. Masters have unlimited rights to sexual activity with their criminals. Criminals have very limited or no appeal to formal legal institutions.
All the appeals that you put in there?
Yeah, just the game. It's just that, like, what are you doing this for? How waste my time? Or it's just like a petition, prayers. You know they call them prayers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because it's like this nigga, we know these niggas is gonna sit there and do this shit.
The thing about it, with a lot, yeah, so I knew this is a joke after a while, you start viewing it as a joke because you know it's bullshit.
Because what we don't do is we don't understand the law yet. Because we're separating
Superman.
But the whole time, guess what we're not looking at? We change it from, you know what the real definition is slave. We understand slavery, but now all of a sudden they're not going to call it slave, they're going to call it criminal. So the law that they're actually practicing is the slavery and the slave trade. They're going to talk about that here. They're going to talk about it.
Criminals are not allowed to give testimony against their masters or usually other free people.
You know why they say that? Because by the time you make it to become a criminal, you're a compulsive liar.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Do you understand that you're giving up your rights?
Yes.
You lied. Nigga, you don't know what rights you even gave up. Were you forced to carry the discipline agreement?
No.
You lied. They just forced you on your squatter card. They threatened to give you 50,000 years. So by the time you become in prison, now you can't give testimony because you're a compulsive liar. Mm-hmm. Because in the courtroom, that's what you're supposed to do.
So it's true, nothing but the truth.
Whole truth and nothing but the truth. But now you're a liar now. At this stage. Keep on reading.
Other free people in general, their testimony is not given the same weight as a free person. Mobility of slaves is limited by owners and often by the state.
I know a guy who on house arrest right now. I know guys who don't pay, but they can't leave the state.
Can't leave the state.
Because guess who's controlling it?
The state.
Understand what they said here. Read that last section again. Read that last section again.
The mobility of criminals is limited by owners and often by the state.
Owners, see, there's two different things here. There's two different things. They said the owner, then what did they say?
State.
See, the state. And here's some science.
We'll be right back. This is
No. It's just you kind of dark. That's cool too.
I got something to say. We all got something to say. You got something to say. I got something to say. Let's say it. And when y'all see our platform, we're not talking about no rappers. We're not talking about how much money Beyonce and Jay-Z got. We're not talking about what kind of car Rick Ross just bought. We ain't talking about what Meek Mill just said in that song.
But I want to know.
No. We ain't talking about that. We talking about some real life issues, real life shit. The criminal justice system. We talking about the law, the shit that they using against us to keep us incarcerated, to keep us locked away, to keep us in bondage, to keep us in.
We're back. This is episode 5. This is Moe, SAF Moe. This is Ron B in the middle. We are the voice of the voiceless. We are
The voice of the voiceless.
We keep this going. Shouts out to all our fans.
What the court clerk would say, file this on the record, because when you go to your court proceeding, guess what the judge has to look at now? The record. saying what? Tax the nigga. But now once an assertion of an exemption, when the judge looks at this piece of paper, and you put exempt on there from levy, exempt from taxation, now the judge, he has to look at the record as one of the people coming in here. See, the artificial person, he can't make an assertion. One of the people who have a signature, who have the ability to make an assertion, has to do that. Subsequently, who's telling the judge, look at the record.
Ron and Mo, Ron be in the middle, SAF Moe, episode 5. We're going to have AC and BC coming to you talking about
Sovereign citizens.
and then also
going to these classes, this wasn't even, he wasn't Morris, and this was just on that, taking back the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to the court because, he said that, when he got to court, he had to, they cleared the court out, basically, almost, after any other time he went back. The first time he went, he was, doing what he was saying, what he was supposed to say, and then the bailiff took him in the back. He thought that he was about to get bad, what he said. But he said he opened the door, the side door, and told him to go in. And he didn't leave at first. He said he thought that they was gonna shoot him in the back or something, like he was, he said dude just kept telling him to leave, and he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna take this chance, and he walked out the door. Dude shut the door on him.
You know what his charges were?
It was something had to do with driving.
And is it like, so if I go try to get federal aid, wouldn't I not be able to get it if I was a sovereign?
No, you should be able to get it because your corporation is still your corporation, and that's what everything is dealing with is the corporation. That's why everything that you see coming to your name from almost any business or government agency, it's all capital letters. Like it's corporation business is going on. Mm-hmm. There ain't really nothing going on between humans no more. So, and back to the sovereign thing. Like when I first was running, I lived across the hall from a black police officer. This was in Michigan. So I asked him. I said, "Have you ever, first graduate? We hate them motherfuckers." I'm like, he was like, "Cause we can't do shit to them." He said, "Sometimes we just throw their cars." And then I said, "Okay." So he validated the fact that this shit was for real. But he was a police officer, right? And so I still hadn't learned how to fill out my things. So when I come back here, right? So I'm working out in Golden Valley, and we got a school, and there was days we had fire truck day or something. We get some police officers out there, too, the white fellas. So I asked them, they were silent, and they were like, "Oh, they think they're above the law, but they're not," and he acted so smug about it, and acting like he didn't want to tell me nothing, right? But the thing about it is they don't want us to know nothing. Mm-hmm. They don't want us to know shit. The black police officer letting you know that the shit is real.
So it's the game in my mind. I'm using the word game. It's probably not the right terminology, but it is in my mind. It's to be a sovereign and understand what's going on, or to understand what's going on and act as though it's not going on. Myself, the police officer, right? He might know what's going on with sovereignty, but his benefits is to keep us within the system, so the system perpetuates itself.
Well, most people are just trained to do their job, right? So police officers don't really know why probably anything is going the way it's going. Judges know.
Judges know.
And you're right, because that's the point I was trying to make. Because when I fast forward to when I got in trouble in Florida for the high-speed chase, I knew about this sovereign thing all the time, and I'm about 6 months in, going back and forth to court. I finally get fed up with going to court, and I go in the courtroom on this one particular court date, and the book tells you to say, you're supposed to go in the courtroom and ask your lawyer, "Are you holding the bond for this here matter?" Then he gonna say no. Then you ask the prosecution, "Are you holding the bond for this here matter?" He's gonna say no, because he don't have it. Then you're supposed to ask the judge, "Are you holding the bond for this matter?" At that point, the judge's supposed to say, "Case dismissed," and you're out of there. I did it wrong. I was so frustrated. I went right in the courtroom, and when the judge asked me to speak, I said, "Who's holding the bond for this matter?" Instead of going through the one 1, 2, 3 process.
Right.
As soon as I did that, the court reporter stopped recording everything. The judge said, "Get him out of my courtroom," and set my trial for the next week. And mind you, I had already had my trial date set for the next month. But when I did that, they set it for the next week and banged the gavel and stopped recording everything and sent me to trial.
So why is it that structure? Why is that necessary? Do you know?
It's always a process, and it's always a specific way of doing things. You know? Because they want to get people to trip up, because they don't want nobody out of their system. They're making money. They're making money all over the place. That's why everything is a charge. There's always money attached to it. I remember, watching that podcast. He was talking about, if you had enough money, you should, with OJ and all that.
Right.
Everything's a charge. If you do have enough money to cover the charge, you more than likely won't go to prison.
Right. The thing about it is, I had an assault charge that I was fighting, and it was a time I was in Oak Park Heights, and one of the guys hit me with the sovereignty argument. I was like, man, fuck this shit. But I was so frustrated. He was like, when you go to the court, tell the court that you're not here for an appearance, you're for a special appearance. Back law breaks it down. Mm-hmm. When you come in for a special appearance, you're basically coming in to tell a judge, I'm not the individual you charged. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the whole reason about it, because they have two variations in black laws of appearances. Mm-hmm. And the one appearance is when they summons you to the court and you appear. That's when they're going to ask you, are you here, and are you that individual, and do you understand the charges before you, and all this other stuff. So I was trying to, so what I did is, in Oak Park Heights, I thought I was going to be on the cameras, but they brought me down to the jail. I had submitted all my motions to the court. The court never asked me, do you understand these charges being, they never asked me that. They never asked me any of that stuff. They immediately, because usually when you first get summoned, the first thing the court asks you, do you understand the charges you've been charged with? They never asked me that. So I thought it was kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Then after that, I end up having to get an attorney to represent me, because I couldn't represent myself. But for the longest, they never dealt with that motion that I put before them. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was just a whole different type of process. And I noticed, like, every time I would be in front of the judge, they would watch how they went on record, because record is very important. Mm-hmm. They would always watch how they went on record with me. And so I just, like I said, I noticed stuff. I know it's something going on. I can't put my finger on it, but like every time I would go in a sovereignty argument, like I was saying AC before, it was I got scared, because in my mind it's like, I don't want to fuck up my chances of getting out of here with this BS. Mm-hmm. And but like I said, I haven't gone as far as I want to go with it, but I've never seen any bad part to it.
Their tactics are to intimidate, and
that's what I felt. I felt like I was overwhelmed by the court processes itself, and like I said, if I didn't want to piss off the judge and have him give me more time.
It's a whole process when you interact with the police too. Like when the police pull you over and they ask you for your license and registration, as a sovereign, you're supposed to say, I'll give it to you under duress.
I thought that you did not have to have a driver's license, because a driver's license is a privilege. It's like a right.
No, a driver's license is a right, not a privilege.
Right, but you can have an international driver's license.
Huh?
It's a privilege afforded to their citizens.
Yeah, but you don't. It's not necessary. You don't have to. They make you.
You have the right to travel this earth.
Yeah, that's true. But it's called travel. It's called travel, though.
Mm-hmm. So you don't need a license to travel.
Right.
You need a license to drive.
The driver's license and the Department of Motor Vehicles was first created to deal with commerce. Mm-hmm. So you had to have a driver's license if you're making money. And this is right in the Black's Law Dictionary. If you're making money with your vehicle, a vehicle is something that is used for commercial purposes. Mm-hmm. So, your car, my truck, whatever you drive, whatever.
Your personal car.
It's not a vehicle. It's an automobile.
Yeah, it's
You
for
know,
travel.
Right. So, you know, unless you decide to use it for making money, then it will become a vehicle. Then you would need driver's license and you need all of whatever tags that they put on it for commercial purposes, like they do cabs and Ubers and all of that other stuff. You're making money with this vehicle. But if you're just taking yourself back and forth to work, or going to the club, or going to somebody's house, or whatever, you ain't doing nothing traveling in your car.
So what if my vehicle is in business then?
Yeah, so that's kind of, that's the, wouldn't that be the, go ahead.
I would assume that would be a commercial vehicle, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's in a business.
But they saying the Moors are flying flags on their vehicle, and they don't have to have
plates, right?
Because they're
not registering their car either. Because once you register, you already bought it. Why should you have to pay the government every year? So you have your own car. It's not like you don't pay the government every year for your shoe.
Yeah. Shouts out to all our fans, everybody supporting us. Keep supporting us. It's a wrap.
Like, subscribe, share. Shout out to like, subscribe, share. Shout out to Platinum Staffing out there in Brooklyn Park. Shout out to Tiffany's Barbershop over here in St. Paul. On
Good looking for the shirts.
Looking out for the shirts.
Man,
shout out to Gaines Barbershop. It's called Glamorous Barbershop over there on the east side of St. Paul, 1085 Arcade.
Support the real. Support the real. Support the real.
I like this demo right here.
That's it.
You stopped it? Yeah, I stopped it.
I got something to say.
Do it now.
I got something to say.
I got something to say. I got something to say. I got something to say.
Yes, sir.
I got something to say.
Shut me up. Shut me up.